Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this finds you in good health. Today we are talking about wisdom and pain, and today we try to understand how suffering can be a very powerful teacher. So, suffering and wisdom, how are they intertwined? How are they interlinked at the end of the day? First of all, many philosophies now they operate under the assumption that suffering is bad. So you talk about the ultimate goal for Buddhism. And for instance, as it is made clear by the Buddha's parable of the poisoned arrow, it is the cessation of personal suffering through acceptance and enlightenment. The Stoics, meanwhile, they seek to eradicate suffering from our lives through rationalization, which is particularly the dichotomy of control. However, if we look at the life work of the 19th century philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, he, however, thinks that such approaches were significantly wrong-headed. And Nietzsche believed that we should reconcile ourselves to suffering not by viewing it as something to transcend, nor as a mistake that can be corrected, but by affirming it as a necessary, indispensable part of a full life. So, indeed, while the Stoics, ladies and gentlemen, while the Stoics they seek to purge us of irrational pain, and the Buddha wants us to escape the cycle of craving and desire and thus eventually escape suffering, Nietzsche believes that suffering can be viewed as an authentic, as an understandable response to life in a world without purpose or order. In fact, greatness is not possible without suffering. So, for instance, if you look at the 1882 work of Friedrich Nietzsche called The Gay Science, he writes in it, and I quote, examine the lives of the best and most fruitful people and ask yourselves whether a tree that is supposed to grow a proud height can dispense with bad weather and storms, whether misfortune and external resistance, whether some kinds of hatred, jealousy, stubbornness, mistrust, hardness, avarice, and violence do not belong among the favorable conditions without which any great growth, even of virtue, is scarcely possible. Unquote. Now, reflecting on the role that suffering has played in his own life, Nietzsche writes that as far as my lung infirmity is concerned, isn't it the case that I'm unspeakably more indebted to it than I am to my health? I owe a higher health to it, and I owe my life philosophy to it as well. So, if there are things in our lives, fellows, that we value, then Nietzsche wants us to realize that we cannot value those things without also valuing everything that brought them about. In his notebook, he writes, and I quote, suppose that we said yes to a single moment, then we have not only said yes to ourselves, but to the whole of existence. For nothing stands alone, either in ourselves or in things. And if our soul did but once vibrate and resound with a chord of happiness, then all of eternity was necessary to bring forth this one occurrence. And in this single moment when we said yes, all of eternity was embraced, redeemed, justified, as well as affirmed. Unquote. So we often, my dear fellows, we have heard of this saying in life that wisdom alone comes through suffering. I repeat, you have this proverbial saying, wisdom alone comes through suffering. So what do we mean by this saying? So at first glance, this quote may seem stark or it may seem even bleak. Yet nestled within its simplicity lies a profound truth about the nature of wisdom as well as the human experience. Wisdom is often regarded as the culmination of knowledge and understanding, and it is not easily acquired. It is not merely a product of reading books or attending lectures, rather, it is forged through the crucible of life's trials and tribulations and suffering in its various forms. It serves as a catalyst for this transformation. So when we face adversity, fellas, whether it be physical, emotional, or existential, we are compelled to confront our limitations. We are obligated to question our beliefs. We are mandated to reassess our priorities. And it is exactly and precisely in these moments of struggle that we are stripped bare of pretense and forced to confront the raw realities of existence. It is amidst this turmoil that wisdom begins to take root slowly but surely. And we need to understand that suffering, by its very nature, it demands introspection, it demands reflection. It prompts us to delve into the depths of our soul, to grapple with life's fundamental questions, to seek meaning amidst the chaos. And in the process, well, we gain insights that cannot be gleaned from textbooks or academic discourse alone. And we learn empathy through our own pain, compassion through our own suffering, and resilience through our own struggles. Moreover, fellas, I would say that suffering fosters humility in us, a recognition of our own vulnerability and fallibility. It humbles us, reminding us of our shared humility and our interconnectedness with all beings. In our moments of greatest anguish, we realize that we are not alone in our suffering, that countless others have walked similar paths and faced similar challenges. This awareness engenders empathy and fosters solidarity, paving the way for greater compassion as well as understanding. And however, it is important to note that wisdom does not inevitably spring forth from suffering. Rather, it is the manner, I would say, in which we respond to suffering that determines its transformative power. Some may emerge from their trials embittered and disillusioned, while others emerge with newfound resilience and thought. It is our capacity for growth and adaptation that ultimately determines, ladies and gentlemen, whether suffering leads to wisdom or despair. So, in essence, this quote that we talked about, wisdom alone comes through suffering, well, it encapsulates the profound truth that adversity is not merely a trial to be endured, but it is an opportunity for growth, for self discovery. It challenges us to embrace life's inevitable hardships as catalysts for transformation and to approach each moment with openness, with humility, with resilience. And we feel that through the crucible of suffering, we emerge not only wiser, but also more compassionate, more empathetic, more humanistic. This quote, by the way, is often attributed to Aeschylus, Aeschylus, and he was an ancient Greek playwright who is considered one of the founders of Western drama. And it begs the question that nowadays, or even if you look back in past, is there a historical example that illustrates the message of this quote that wisdom alone comes through suffering? So for me, one profound example of this can be seen in the life of Nelson Mandela. Mandela's journey from a young activist fighting apartheid to becoming the president of South Africa sort of captures the essence of this quote the way I see it. Because if you go back to the 1960s, Mandela was a key figure instrumental in the struggle against apartheid, a brutal system of racial segregation and stratification in South Africa. His activism, which included acts of defiance and civil disobedience, well, it led to his arrest in 1962. And from there on afterwards, Mandela spent 27 years in prison, most of which was in the harsh confines of Robben Island. And this period was marked by immense physical as well as emotional suffering. I mean, he had to endure harsh conditions, he had to force labor, and he was separated from his family, all the while being subjected to a system that was designed especially to break his spirit. And despite the suffering, Mandela used his time in prison to reflect deeply on the nature of justice, leadership, and reconciliation. And his endurance and wisdom grew as he faced the harsh realities of his imprisonment. And when he was finally released in 1990, he emerged with a vision of a united South Africa rather than one that was marked by revenge and division. So Mandela's suffering enabled him to develop a profound wisdom about forgiveness as well as leadership. And he championed the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a novel approach to addressing the injustices of apartheid by promoting national healing other than just the adoption of punitive measures. And his wisdom that was forged in the crucible of suffering, it played a crucial role for, in transforming South Africa from a nation that was divided by racial conflict to one that was striving for unity and equality. And then we finally ask ourselves this question that how can the code be applied in a real life scenario? So applying this code that wisdom alone comes to suffering in a real life scenario, well, that can be quite enlightening, especially as far as personal growth is concerned, especially as far as professional development is concerned. So, ladies and gentlemen, just imagine someone who's starting a new business, and initially, the journey might seem exciting and full of potential, but as they um, as they dive deeper, they encounter numerous challenges. Challenges in the form of financial strain. I'm talking unanticipated market shifts, as and possibly even failure. And these difficulties are often stressful and disheartening, making the entrepreneurial journey a crucible of sorts. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. So during these trials, the individual might experience significant suffering, whether through financial loss, personal doubt, or the pressure of unfulfilled expectations. However, this suffering is not in vain. It forces the entrepreneur to reassess their strategies, to understand their weaknesses, as well as to develop resilience. And through these challenges, they learn valuable lessons about market dynamics, about risk management, as well as effective leadership. For instance, a business owner might initially struggle with managing a team or understanding customer needs. The suffering from these challenges, perhaps dealing with a high turnover rate or negative feedback, it forces them to become more adept at communication, empathetic leadership, as well as customer relations. Now, over time, these experiences they build a reservoir of wisdom that guides them towards better decision making and ultimately a more successful business. And I feel like the same principle applies in personal development. So going through difficult life experiences such as a personal loss or a prolonged period of adversity, it can lead to profound insights and emotional growth. And these experiences they often compel individuals to confront their vulnerabilities, reassess their values, and develop greater empathy and understanding for others. Thus, the suffering endured, I would say, is not merely a source of pain. To summarize, fellas, it is not merely a source of pain, but a crucial part of the learning process that leads to wisdom. And the insight gained from these experiences, they often contribute to more insightful, more thoughtful decisions, as well as a deeper understanding of oneself and the world. That'll be all for now, fellas. Thank you very much and stay blessed. Assalamu alaikum.